What would it like? What would it be like to live in a Marseille which has urban agriculture everywhere and really clean air and amazing public transport and zero waste and plastic and trees everywhere and a very different kind of an economy? You know, you need to bring that alive in the imagination of people. Yeah, that's a very good question because the ideal answer to that question is we all pay our tax to governments who are completely responsible and who always act in everything they do with the best interests of the long-term future and of communities at heart. So everything should all be in hand. But that's clearly not the case. So it's clear that that approach isn't working, because the people who are supposed to be making the decisions on which our future depends are not acting sufficiently responsibly, sufficiently urgently, and sufficiently inclusively. So it does come down, I think, to communities to get involved and to play their part. And I'm not for a moment saying that communities can do everything or should do everything. But so there are the things that we can do as individuals in our own lives, at home: fly, stop flying, eat less meat, drive less, insulate our houses, whatever. There's the things that governments need to do, and we need to see at COP26 next month a much more ambitious, much more urgent approach to what's happening. And we need to see our municipalities really leading by example and acting as if it's an emergency. I always say climate change is a climate and ecological emergency. If it's an emergency, you need to act like it's an emergency. If you started a job and their health and safety policy was, if you smell smoke, stay at your desk and ring the fire brigade next week sometime, you would think they were massively irresponsible. But actually that's really the approach of the governments. So there is a lot that we can do as communities. That piece in the middle about when communities can organise, even like 15, 20 people, 30 people, if they're organised and they can start things, it can firstly give the municipality a permission to be a lot more adventurous. It creates a new culture and a new story in that place. It gives people a sense that they're not just bystanders anymore, they're part of creating change. And actually, in the best cases, it also leads to creating new businesses, it can create new work for people, new partnerships. So there is a really important piece that communities can do, but that doesn't let governments off the hook as well. I think everywhere I go, people always say we're not enough people, and there's so much to do, and we're all tired, and we don't feel like we're having as much impact as we'd like to have. I think that's a universal thing. So I always say to groups, you have no idea the impact of the projects that you start. You might start what seems like a small project, and then it grows and grows. I had one transition group I spoke to the other day. They started a small community garden. That then gave them the confidence to do a much bigger one and create a food forest in their town. Then the municipality came and said, look, we've got 3 hectares over here. Would you like to do something here? They're now working on that, and the municipality said, look, we've got 13 hectares around the side of the town to create a green corridor. Would you like to do that? So these things can grow, and when you start a project, you never know what it's going to lead to, who's going to be inspired by it, what it's going to inspire. I think one of the things that is often a problem in groups is the dynamics in the groups, or conflict, or that you don't create a good culture in that group, which is why we always really encourage transition groups to do the training that we have, which is a 2-day transition training, which gives a lot of the stuff you need to running good meetings, running good groups, having strategies in place to avoid burnout, which is a big risk for people. So I think when groups pay good attention to that and have a good culture within their group, that makes a really big difference. And I think also, if after 6 months your group is still just sat around talking about ideas, that's not good. It needs to turn into people doing something, because even when you do something small and you change, even if you just change a little piece of ground like that, it gives you a confidence that you could then do something else. So you need that confidence. And increasingly as well, I think we need to be making a culture where we think more like an entrepreneur thinks, and we think, how do we turn this project into something that can create work for people? So we build a new economy in the place where we live. That's really important too. Yeah, I think the examples that we've seen today have been amazing examples, and I'm really, really inspired by them. So the first one we went to see was an urban agriculture project, which was amazing in terms of what it had created in a short period of time, in terms of the culture and the model that they had, in terms of the diversity of what they were doing there, and in terms of their ambition as well. You know, they're not just content to be on this little place. They want this to be something that really seeds around the city. And the beautiful thing about seeing urban agriculture projects is they're different everywhere, because they're always responding to different contexts and different settings and political climates and so on. But it was a really, really good project. Then we went to the Après project, which was a really inspiring example of really radical social change making in a pretty tough place. And I thought they were just amazing, and that the model that they create when they create it could be revolutionary and deeply transformative, and I have huge respect for the people that we met there. And then the last one was about how to access big bits of land to create kind of experimental spaces, what I like to think of as a sort of what if space or yes and space, where people get to experiment and try things out. And all of those things are really, really fantastic, and all of them were very replicable and very expandable. And you know, when we were stood in that community garden, I was thinking, well, what an amazing, you know, there's a model there that could just work everywhere. And as more and more cities are starting to design how to take space away from cars, reduce land available to cars, that frees up a lot of land. What are we going to do with it? Are we just going to tarmac it, or are we actually going to use it for something else? So yeah, I feel really, a lot of my work with Transition Network is kind of, I'm like a bee that travels around all these different projects, but instead of collecting pollen, I collect stories, and then I share those stories to other places. And the story of what we visited today, I think I will take to many other places. I would say that that it sounds like, in terms of having a good political foundation for change, that sounds like it's now in place in the city. I would say, firstly, to be really bold and ambitious. If you say there's a climate emergency, you have to act as if there's a climate emergency. So if the steps you're taking are small and incremental, then they're not bold enough. You know, the steps that have to be taken now have to be really radical. And the main way, I think, to communicate that and to do that is to tell a story. So to really bring alive in the imaginations of the people in the city what an incredible place it could be if all of this happened. What would it like? What would it be like to live in a Marseille which has urban agriculture everywhere, and really clean air, and amazing public transport, and zero waste and plastic, and trees everywhere, and a very different kind of an economy. You know, you need to bring that alive in the imagination of people and tell the stories, rather than saying, and you won't have a car, and you won't be able to go on holiday, and you can only, you know, like this. So people imagine environmentalists are just there to kind of beat people, and you can't do this, you can't do that. Actually, no, you need to say, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be incredible. It'll be like this and like this. Oh my God, just wait till you taste the wine we'll then be making from the grapes growing on the houses in the city or whatever. So it's a storytelling piece. And I'd love to see Marseille really become the first the first genuine transition city in France, and for that to be something everyone's really proud of.
Yes. Okay,
I don't think that's how it's done. I think it's done like this.
It's gonna be in the video. All right. Okay.